This is Kit Stephenson, Director of Coaching at Rise Futsal Academy and Head Coach at Southmore High School. This is another episode of the Moss Futsal Podcast.
Yo, welcome back to the Moss Futbol Podcast, the number one soccer podcast in Oklahoma City. I am your host, Ricardo Ulloa, and I am here at Legacy Real Estate Group today. Shout out to the sponsors for providing this great place for me to record at. Like I say every week, if you're looking for someone to help you buy, sell, invest in a house, I always recommend Matia Rossi, Matia Vero, Salvador. Anybody on the team is great. Hit them up. They make the process seamless. I am not here by myself, though. I am here with a guest. He's part of the MACU clan, just like many of us are. The head coach of the Southmore team, as well as he plays a big role. I'm not sure what title you have there at Rise Football.
Coaching Director.
Coaching Director, Kit. What's up, man?
What's up?
How are you today?
Doing good.
Good, man. I appreciate you for coming on to the podcast, man. Thank you.
No, thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
I wanted to have you on, but first, let me say congratulations on everything that you guys have been doing at Rise. You guys had a great year this year.
Yeah, it was a big year.
Big year. But before I get into that and kind of peel that onion back, for the people that don't know you, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So originally I'm from Weatherford, Oklahoma, out in western Oklahoma. Grew up playing there, so I'm an Eagle at heart forever and try to get back and do as much as I can for those people out there. But moved from there, and as mentioned a little bit ago, I was ready to go to the Army, and almost had a ship date and everything was pretty much a done deal. And then I heard about a tryout at MACU, and so I decided to go give it a shot. I'd had some bad luck. Title IX took away the soccer program at the school where I was going to play at Southwestern. A lot of my friends from Weatherford were there. It was kind of what I wanted to do my whole life. And we get there and I sign and everything looks good, and then Title IX shut it down. So we were all just kind of thrown to the wind, and people had to, we had people from, Brazil and England, and they were all, well, where do I go and now? Where they're just stuck in Weatherford, Oklahoma with no team. So, but luckily I was at home. So I went back to work for my dad, and then heard about this tryout, ended up at MACU, and graduated, and went to work at Crooked Oak High School for 5 or 6 years. I was there, and then Southmore. So, and then throughout all of that, basically since I've been up here, Garrett and I started the futsal thing with Evan, and that's grown way more than we ever thought that it probably would. So that's where we're at now.
Nice. Well, like I said, congratulations on the journey. But the journey still continues. You went and won nationals in Florida, right?
Yeah, so our 07-08 boys, which, man, to be honest, ever since we've been doing this has been I guess a lot of people had babies in 2007, 2008. It is a really deep pool. I've actually always been curious to ask, like, some of the club coaches, is it the same way in, like, club soccer? Is that just a really difficult age group, those two brackets? But in futsal, it's for sure been that way. It's historically the hardest one to win.
07, 08?
Yeah.
And that's just because there's so many kids. What age group is that? How old are these kids, 07, 08?
So they'd be like 14.
14, okay.
Yeah, there's just, we have a whole bunch of kids that are, even we're going to Spain, and we have 2 or 3 players in Rise that weren't able to make it to Memphis for regionals or to Orlando for nationals, but they train with us all the time and would have been on a roster if they'd have been available. And they're like incredible players, and they're not even going to Spain with us. Like Adam Castillo plays for UConn High School, very, very good player. And there's other ones too.
So these are high school kids then?
Yeah, most of them are freshmen now.
Wow,
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah. Really, really difficult pool to win, and so we went up to Orlando, or down to Orlando, I guess, and we played teams we play in the Champions Cup series with United Futsal, which is a elite program. They do. Rob Andrews over at United Futsal does an incredible job. He would be a good one to have on here.
Yeah. Is he local?
No, he's not, but he's in town a lot because we're starting to do a lot more here, so we need to pick that up. But he United Futsal is incredible. Everything from the way that they set up these events, it just makes the kids feel valued. They walk in and feel like they're the most important person there.
Is this the same that ran the tournament down at the convention center?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Rob. And this year we'll do that tournament again, and we'll also do NTC, which is when all these CCS kids go to regionals.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a regional in, I think, North Carolina, Memphis, and Vegas, the Western Regional. Mm-hmm. And through those tournaments, they'll pick national training camp kids, right? Like the most elite kids in each age group. And that has sort of bounced around where NTC is, but this year Rob's going to do it in Oklahoma City, so we'll do that at the convention center as well. Nice. So that's going to be a pretty cool thing, to have. You can have some of the best youth futsal players in the country will all come to Oklahoma City and go through that training and stuff. But yeah, the boys went up there, and we knew they had a pretty good shot. They've been playing really well. And the interesting thing about this team is I don't think they'd ever won a tournament before this. We'd been to several, Dallas and Kansas City, and they'd come close. They always competed well. They're always one of the better teams in the division, but they hadn't quite done it yet. And then we had that one here in Oklahoma City, and there was a USYF national champion in it, the defending national champion, and then there's another team in it that was the national champion the year before that. And we beat both of them in that tournament. We were like shocked, and not shocked. We knew that they were good enough to do it, but it was just
a realization moment.
Like you guys you proved to yourself you could do it. So we knew going into Orlando, that we had like a shot. I think we were definitely the underdogs. People knew like, hey, they're pretty good, but
it's just the guys from Oklahoma.
Yeah, just Oklahoma, and but the United Futsal guys, these other clubs would be like, so who do we need to look out for? And this group from Atlanta is pretty good, right? And the United Futsal guys kept telling me, they were like, dude, I'm telling them, you guys are sleeping on this group over here. This team over here they're going to be good. They're going to be good. And we came through and beat them all. And the team we beat in the finals they're incredible, and they do a great job. They're from LA, Tokay. Just an incredible futsal club. Probably top to bottom, probably the best in the country. I think.
You think so?
They're just very, very good. Their methodology is great. The director's a great guy, cares a lot about the kids, and they just do a really good job out there. But when we go play them, they're full of all MLS Next kids. I mean, these kids are great, great, great players, and we've got, we're the group from Oklahoma. We've got 2 or 3 kids that don't even play club. Yeah, they're just train with us, and that's it, And so we were definitely the underdogs, but we ended up taking them to a shootout, and that's the video we posted online and stuff. It's a pretty incredible moment. There's been some cool stuff as a player and as a coach, but that moment that'll be at the top.
That's the pinnacle for you?
That'll be up there forever, man. That was an incredible moment.
It looked intense with everybody surrounding the pitch and just watching, and just talking about it now, it kind of gives me goosebumps because I know how much it meant, and that's intense. And then that goal kind of put you onto this journey of now going to Barcelona. Yeah. It's so if you win that tournament, then you get, the cool thing about it is, most of these leagues, this is another shout out to United Futsal, but when most of these leagues, if you perform well and your team wins, the further you go, the more money it costs you. You know what I mean? Yeah, unfortunately, that's the unfortunate downside of it. Yeah,
that's the way it's kind of set up. With Rob, it's an expensive. CCS is expensive. Our parents have to dig in with us, and we have a lot of work and fundraising to do this. But when we do this stuff through our regional and through our national, if you win that, the team that won it, all the boys on that roster get their hotel and all their meals and all their transportation while they're in Spain is covered. Wow. So all we have to do is we got to figure out a way to cover flights to get these boys to Spain. So, and then now, like I said, we've got a girls team that's going to go too. But it's just a really cool way to set it up, right? Where if you win, now you're spending less money to get to go do the cool stuff.
You should be awarded some type of aid, you know. Yeah. But it's, That's good that they're providing something like that for you.
Yeah. But no, this tournament it's people we took a group of kids to Barcelona and trained with Santos a couple years ago before all the COVID stuff.
Brazil.
To Brazil, yeah. We went and trained with Santos for 10 days, which was incredible. We hope we get to do that again maybe next summer now that COVID is sort of. But, people travel and go to these different countries and, and do these things all the time. But this is different in that we're not going to Barcelona just to play teams that are there. Like I was just talking to some of the United Futsal guys the other day. The Barcelona FC will be in this tournament. Sporting from Portugal is likely going to be in this tournament. I know they've been in conversations with Atletico Madrid, but there's professional clubs from Australia. France, I think, too, is sending a team. And then futsal's so big in these other places, too, that there are really big, popular futsal clubs in Spain and Brazil that don't play soccer. And so one of the big futsal clubs from Spain is also so these kids are going to be playing against players that they'll watch play in the Champions League in a few years. It's not just some kid from Spain, right? These are going to be playing for Barcelona.
I hear you. They're not going on vacation. They're going to battle. They're going to war in Spain.
Yeah, this is the real, and we're going with the intention. Garrett and I have told the boys that's a big part, I think, of the preparation for this. We've told
it's mentality, probably.
Yeah, man. Like they know how to play futsal. This group of kids we're lucky because they are. We have our methodology and we try to teach them our methodology, but they are individually so unique and just so creative that when you watch them play, you can see our style, you can see what we want to see, but they add something that we can't teach, but yeah, we told them, they can play futsal, but we're going to be in a different country. Some of these kids have never been out of Oklahoma and Texas. So we're taking you across seas. So there's going to be culture and there's going to be a lot of things. I think, like you said, the mental preparation is just going to be huge, I think, to get them ready for. But part of that is we've told them flat out, like, we're not going to be like, oh, cool, look, it's Barcelona. Let's get pictures. You guys get your pictures. We'll, you trade jerseys at the end or whatever you guys want to do. But when we're going Andrew style when we get out there.
Webster style. No, it's almost like you gotta mentally figure out a way to take the excitement of the trip and just kind of use it against them to be like, we're not going to hang out. Like we're going to war. Like it's an accomplishment that you win the national championship, but the curse that comes behind it is now you got to go face the big boys, and that's real life soccer. The better you get, the better the competition it gets, and it's kind of like a curse and a prize at the same time. Like this is what you're choosing to do. So if you think we're just going on vacation, you're wrong. You're not doing yourself. You're not being a service to yourself if that's all you're thinking about.
Right.
Like, do you see that in practice? Are you mentally like messing with them? Because I'm pretty sure they're on a different level of just knowing that they're going to Barcelona must have them on a different.
Yeah, I mean they're the girls group. Since we found out that they were going a little bit later, we've scheduled some practices and stuff to get them prepared. So we haven't worked with them quite as much as a group. But the boys, something that's special also about the boys, aside from just how incredible, and creative and technical they are so much fun to coach because they're incredibly mentally tough. I use them as an example a lot when I talk to my sophomore boys and other groups within the club. I'm like, you guys need to watch, like my younger kids, watch them. Watch the way they deal with adversity, this group. I don't know if did you talk to Garrett before or after we won the national tournament?
I think it might have been before. I don't remember.
I can't remember either. But one of the craziest things that happened is there was some confusion. So when we go to Orlando, there's 2 tournaments. Which is kind of nice. So you can save a little money, knock out both tournaments. But we play in Nationals and then we play in Worlds. And every year, the winner of Nationals has gotten the bid to go to Barcelona. And the winner of Worlds, because with Worlds they bring in, smaller clubs from Brazil and from all over the world to come play and make it kind of an international tournament down there in Orlando. So they don't give the winner of that the Barcelona bid just because it may not be an American team that wins it.
That makes sense.
So usually it was nationals. This year there was a little bit of confusion and some rumors that maybe it was going to be the winner of Worlds. And so Garrett and I were under the impression for a minute that the boys weren't going to, even though we won nationals, we were like, hey, we're going to Barcelona. Everybody's celebrating. And then between that win and starting the next tournament, Garrett and I were like, wait a second, I don't think I don't think we got the bid. I think we have to win Worlds now to do it. And so Garrett and I are just like distraught, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, man, should we tell them now? Do we let them just go play? Or like, how do you handle telling kids like, hey, you know that Barcelona thing? Kidding. You have to win another one.
Like,
you got to beat that team again to do it. And so we decide, you know what? Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and tell them.
Yeah.
And so we walk over there and we're all like, hey guys, listen, not great, but we want to just have this conversation with you. And Garrett was like, yeah, go ahead and tell him, Kit. And I was like, hey, so I think you have to win Worlds to get Barcelona. I don't think we got the bid from winning nationals. And I was fully expecting to see like shoulders drop and like, all right, you know, and kind of like have to regroup and then go play this game. They all looked at us and they were like, so we got to win this tournament? And I was like, yeah. And the kid from Enid was like, all right.
Easy.
Turned around and walked off. And I looked at Garrett and then Miguel he's played up in Miguel Lopez. He's played up in Sporting Kansas City for a while. He's an Oklahoma City boy, but I looked at him and he was like, "We just got to win this one." I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Cool." Turned around and walked off. Started warming up again. We look around at all these guys, Zion and Evan and all the Deuce and all these guys, and they're like, "Cool, all right," and they just get right back into their warm up. It didn't faze them at all.
Wow.
They didn't. They were just like, "Okay, we'll go beat everybody again." And then we found out that we actually ended up playing that Tokay team that we beat in the national final. We played them in the semifinal of that tournament, and they beat us by a goal in the world tournament. So, but then we found out that nationals, we got the bid from nationals, so it all worked out. But it was a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it still, I was glad it happened that way, just because it showed us like who those boys are. Whenever you get slapped with something in the face, and you have to like figure out a way to deal with that. And I did not expect them to be that resilient. To be, I mean, they're just kids. They're like young. So to give them that kind of a reward and then rip it out away from them and then be like, no problem. All right, we'll do it again.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're good kids, man. It's a really, really good group of kids and stellar players. But yeah, we are working a lot on like the mental side of it, because you know, now they've got to behave that way, but they got to do it in a different culture. Sleeping is going to be different. There's just I think a lot to get ready for.
But that's part of the game, you know. That's one way you could paint it to them. It's like a lot of those kids' dream is to be a professional, and you could say now that they are professionals and they have to take their role professionally starting now, you know, if they want to. So it's going to be a once in a lifetime trip, and I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. Yeah,
I can't wait. It's going to be a good deal. A little bit of a difficult travel situation, but it's going to be worth it. Parents are excited.
I bet because you guys are leaving Christmas. Some are leaving Christmas Day, some are leaving sooner, but it's basically Christmas this year.
Yeah, we'll leave. Most of us, I think, will probably leave that afternoon or that evening on Christmas night. So I'm hoping that, you know, most of us can get up and enjoy Christmas with family, and then we'll get on a plane that night and we'll take off, and then the plan is to leave very, very early on New Year's Eve. And since we gain hours coming back, we're hoping that we'll be able to be here for the ball to drop on New Year's. On New Year's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane just hearing all of that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a cool thing, and like you said, it's a once in a lifetime, especially for this group, because CCS we only go with certain age groups. So kids who, like the 2007s, this is their last year in CCS. They'll graduate out, and so we'll still have futsal tournaments for them, but these opportunities are done, and so for them, it's, I mean, the 08s, I guess, if we put a great team together and they go win it again, then they potentially could do this again, and we plan on it and hope so, right? Yeah. But the 07s, this is it. This is their one chance.
The goal is to go to Spain and win it.
Oh yeah,
we're not going to just enjoy the Spain stuff.
But absolutely, we're going. I was glad that we were talking about Andrew. I'm going to talk to Garrett about that, because that's that is the mentality that we need going into it.
Some motivation.
You could have put David Beckham could have walked out on the field. Cristiano Ronaldo walked out on the field, and Andrew would have been like, he wouldn't have even doubted himself for a second.
Yeah.
I'll break him in half. I'm going to win this 1v1. He would have never thought twice.
Yeah, dude, that's the mentality you guys have to go into with any person in any tackle.
Yep.
You guys are accepting donations.
Yeah.
How can we help you guys?
So we have a GoFundMe that's set up. We have it shared on our Insta and on our Facebook and that kind of thing. We're looking for something that we've been very successful with. I've got a good friend that's been a huge help with trying to help us fundraise and that kind of thing. And she was like, hey, the best way to do this, because we were thinking like, let's do garage sales and bake sales and let's all these things. And she was like, yeah, that's all great, but you're going to spend your 3 months before you leave working to raise money, and you're not going to prepare the kids. And so we're like, you're right, we need to focus on futsal. And so what her idea was is we should try to find 12 people that will donate $1,000 a piece to cover the flight for one of these kids. And so that's what Garrett and I have been going at, and we've had some success. I think we've got 9 of them already sold. So we're hoping that we can get 2 or 3 more, and that will be then buy plane tickets, quit worrying about money. It's all paid for now.
Really?
Let's focus on what we're going to do. So, but we do have a GoFundMe because there's been a lot of people that want to help, but they just maybe they don't have the resources or whatever to do $1,000. So
even if we can give $25,
yeah.
20, a 5, a 10,
right.
anything for us to help.
So we were thinking if we could sell 10 or 11 even of those sponsors, then we could use the GoFundMe to cover that last one, right? So it's and the GoFundMe is doing pretty well. I think there's over $1,000 in it now. So we just we're close. We just need like a little bit more help, and then these kids will be paid for, and they can go do this, go play in this incredible opportunity without having to worry about the financial, which we all know finances in soccer can be a little bit rough. I'd really
different topic for a different day. Huh?
Yeah, that'd be a soapbox we'd be on all afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're trying to get rid of that burden for this one event if we can, and make this a free trip. I think they deserve it. This group, they went and won the biggest futsal tournament in the country. So I'd like to get them there if we can.
Yeah, so if you're listening right now and you guys want to help, drop a 5 into the GoFundMe account, drop a 10, anything that helps. So right now, if you're listening to this right now, stop, open up the GoFundMe app and donate something, anything to help these kids go. I think it's a good cause, and we have to all play our part, because if you guys are doing better, that makes everyone else have to compete against you guys, and that makes everyone else better. So I wholeheartedly believe that's how we are all going to get better. So
yeah, and the thing with this group, another thing. It's kind of like it's a crazy Cinderella story. This group is like I told you, we've got 2 or 3 that don't play club soccer, which they need to, and so we're working on that with them as well. But finances and stuff at club soccer is expensive, and so we're working on that a little bit, try to help some of those kids out. But we've got kids from I did a little write-up for people as we're asking them for these donations, these $1,000 donations, and I was like, the angle I'm going to take on this write-up is I'm going to visit with each one of these boys and find out a little bit more about who they are off the court and outside of soccer. Like, what do you like to do? And it was just crazy, man, hearing these kids. Like, one of the kids is super into art. One of them collects shoes. And then I started like, where I need your address, because I wanted to do like a drop
map.
pins, right? I want to see like where exactly are all of our kids from. Our goalkeeper, who is an incredible futsal goalkeeper, good outdoor goalkeeper too, don't get me wrong, but he for me he's a futsal keeper. So but he's from Hinton, Oklahoma. Most people don't even know where Hinton, Oklahoma.
Home of Red Rock Canyon.
Yeah. So they don't even have soccer in Hinton. I think he's a 5-sport athlete out there.
Really?
Football, baseball, basketball, futsal, soccer. He does it all, but he just a great kid, fantastic family. But it's interesting because how did like Rise Futsal Academy in Oklahoma City end up with a goalkeeper from Hinton? It's just a weird. So and then we've got another really good player is from Blanchard. We've got one kid out of Edmond, one kid out of Enid. The Enid kid story is incredible too. He was actually born in Brazil.
Right.
His dad married a Brazilian woman, and they lived in Brazil for 16 years, and then they wanted the boys to go to high school in America, so they moved back up here.
Enid, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they had family in Enid. I think Dad's mom, I think, was in Enid.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I know you get like Football Factory will follow Enid a little bit. I know that those.
Yeah, because they went off this year. They had a great year.
Very good.
They had a good social media presence, and it made it easier for us to follow them. But yeah, I followed them pretty heavily. I was rooting for them really hard this year.
They were good. We played them. We played them at the Stillwater tournament, and that coach is doing a good job.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy. I had a phone conversation with him the other day. He's a good dude. He's doing it the right way up there, I think. And then that new complex they got.
Really?
That thing. Have you seen pictures of that?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, they did a multi-million-dollar upgrade up there. They're gonna have all these different. It might be one of the, if not the nicest soccer complex in Oklahoma. It opens up this year. It's incredible.
Nice.
But you can see pictures online and stuff. But so yeah, he's from Enid. Enid's got this Brazilian kid that grew up training with Santos and stuff. So of course that's awesome. But he and then we've got 5 or 6 other ones that are just from south side of Oklahoma City. So it's just a pretty cool little group. How they're kind of all. Garrett and I were talking the other day about how, like, if you would have just sat down 3 years ago and be like, I bet we're gonna have a kid from Enid, Blanchard, Enid, but came from Brazil, Edmond, and then all these kids from South OKC. Where our gym is and where our community is, you would expect the South OKC kids, but a lot of coincidence and stuff had to happen for this group to end up being together.
Right. Yeah. That's a cool project that you have where you're going to try to just see how circumstances of life have got everybody down to rise. That's really neat. Dude, and if I can help, like imagine if you sat them down with your questions and then recorded it and then eventually like put a video together. I mean, it's just those little things are cool. Yeah. That'd be no sweat off my back. That'd be super easy to do.
Yeah, we should do it. We should do it. And the boys will love that too.
Hype them up. That'd be so great. That'd be awesome. Yeah, it's crazy how life works that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. So we're lucky. Yeah, Garrett and I, we talk about Garrett is really the head coach of the team, and then I help him with that with this specific group, and we talk about all the time just how lucky we are that all these kids are in there, and then the parents are just, because I don't know like how much you've been around club and all that kind of stuff, but parents, I'll say this all the time, parents can be the biggest benefit or the biggest detriment to a kid's career, and far too often I see them be the biggest detriment. They'll run their kid's career, and they have good intentions. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're destroying everything for their kid. But this group of parents just isn't like that. I mean, on the way to that national tournament, we had to make some difficult decisions here and there. Sometimes a game fits a kid, sometimes a game doesn't fit a kid, and so depending on who we were playing, some kids played a lot, and then the next game they may not play very much. And luckily for Garrett and I, we won, so it looks like the decisions were good, but maybe we didn't. But the thing is, we didn't hear anything from the parents. They didn't complain. They were super supportive and
understood the process and whatnot, because those are the tough decisions to make on any level. It's just like deciding to leave somebody out, deciding to leave somebody in, and you're at a high enough level where the W's really matter. Yeah. Like everybody is in accordance to that. And it reminds me of whenever I was coaching elementary school for PAL, and we were like, getting the playoffs and one more win and we're making it to the semifinals, but we're winning, we're winning 3-0. What should we do? Okay, well, let's start, allowing people to play. Yeah. But then you get scored on 2 times really quickly. So it's like, hey, 5 minutes after you guys got pulled in, let's pull you guys out. And it breaks hearts, They're sad that they didn't get to play. But like you said, we ended up winning. Right. We held the ship up and everybody kind of forgot. But nobody talks about us having to make those decisions for those kids, because we do keep those players in mind, even though it doesn't seem like it. But that's tough.
Well, you ultimately, as a coach, you have to make the decision. Especially in those moments, you have to make the decision to try to win the game. I mean, that's what you're there for, as the coach, is to try to develop the kids and win the game. Anybody that says winning doesn't matter, they're lying. It does matter. And so and there are some places in the game where winning should be secondary to things. And even in Rise, development is first and foremost. I was talking to one of our young coaches yesterday, and he was asking me like to kind of evaluate him. He's like, hey, you know, was there anything in Florida that you think I should have done better? He had a team in Orlando, and so we went over some things and talked a little bit. But I told him, I was like, you know, there are always moments in a coach's career where, you know, I could kind of abandon the what I believe or the Rise methodology or our style of play and probably go win this game. But the reason that we use the methodology we use is because we believe that it develops players into the best player they can be. It makes them a more intelligent player. And so under no circumstance do we ever abandon that, right? And so even if it means you have a national championship on the line, you don't abandon it. If you have to go down with the ship and you lose because we're going to stick to our guns on that, then you just lose. And that's the expectation of the whole academy with everybody. Never abandon what we do here. And so we had a long conversation about that, about how that can be really, really hard to do. But it's important to me because wins and losses are so important. So if we say that this thing is more important than winning, then it just tells everybody where it is. But you're right, because we're trying to win these games, and the kids want to win, right? And of course they want to win while they're on the court, but it does become difficult. I think people forget. They think like, oh, you know, Ricardo just wanted to win the game. He wanted to have the trophy. And that the parents have a hard time sometimes understanding that, yeah, that's what you were there to do. It's what I'm there to do when I coach. But then you go home and you think about that kid that you couldn't play, and it keeps you up at night, and you genuinely love these kids and you want the best for them. And it's I think people or maybe underestimate how hard it is on the coach. I don't know a coach that doesn't go home and lose sleep about that. You know, that eats all of us up, I think. So I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough.
I don't think it does.
We're kind of looked at like we're
like just cutthroat and just ruthless. And but no, it's kind of, as a coach, you're putting yourself, you're just trying to put the right pieces in at the right time, and sometimes the board just doesn't accommodate to me being able to make everybody happy.
Right.
You know, so even at a elementary school level with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, like there was just pieces that just couldn't go in, and you know, that's just part of it. But you brought up the methodology of Rise. Like what does Rise do differently?
So I can't claim credit for this. We went down to Brazil. So the way it all started basically is we were just training kids, and we had 15 or 20 kids that Garrett and Evan and I were training, and they were mostly from like 06, I'd say 05 to 08, 09 when we first started this. And they would all train together, so we had a decent group, you know, good numbers to train. And so one of the dads came up and was like, hey, there's a tournament in Kansas City. I don't know if you guys knew that there's actually futsal tournaments. And we were like, really? That's crazy. Okay, well, let's learn the rules and go play. And so we went, and dude, we had some good players. And we thought, we'll be all right, dude. Futsal's not that big of a... We didn't even know there's a tournament. It can't be that good. And we went up there to Kansas City and got smacked all weekend long. I'm talking, you know, now occasionally we'll go beat a team 17-0, and people are like, and I'm like, no, they need that too, because we needed it, right?
Yeah, you went and got humbled, and now you're humbling others.
Yeah,
so yeah.
we went, dude, we went. I remember one game we got beat 22-0.
No.
22-0 with what we thought was a good group of kids out there, and we did everything we could, man, tactically. Garrett and Evan and I are sitting down with our dry erase markers, like, how do we stop this? I don't understand what they're doing. But yeah, the three of us, you know, Evan's been coaching forever and is a great coach. We couldn't figure it out, and so, but that just like drove us more. We were like, okay, now we've seen part of this game, you know, outside of soccer a little bit, but still the same concept that we have no idea about. We're clearly really, really bad at. And so it kind of drove us to get better. So we learned a little bit on our own and kind of came up with a pseudo methodology. We kind of came up with a way that we wanted to do it. And then our friends down at City Futsal in Dallas, Federico and he's got his whole family's down there running City Futsal, but the boys, they all they developed a relationship with Santos in Brazil, which is where Neymar and a whole, like many of the best players ever have come from.
Pele.
And so we Santos would come up and run camps with City Futsal. And so Fetty called me one day and was like, hey, Santos is coming up. I'm going to do a coaching clinic that night. And I was like, I'm there. And so I drove down to Dallas, and I went through this coaching clinic with Barata and Felipe, who Felipe has actually left Santos now and is with Corinthians, who's another top club down there. But those two ran the class, and they were like the directors. They were the big dogs of Santos. So I was blown away, really, that those two individuals were even here. But just as accommodating and nice and humble as you could be, and I called Garrett and Evan from Dallas and was like, dude, everything that you guys have learned about futsal, forget it.
Really?
This is incredible. The way that they do things is incredible. And
like what? Give me some examples.
Well, they just everything that they do is based around the intelligence of the player. So the question you'll hear them ask all the time is, what is the game asking of you? And so so they'll ask a player that. A player will make a decision, and he'll play this pass, and that pattern or whatever will end, and the coach will bring the kid over and be like, hey, what was the game asking of you? Why did you make that pass? And if the kid has an answer, if he's like, well, because I saw this, then it's a pat on the back of the head and good job, get back in there. You'll never hear, you would think that high level, you would hear them correcting that stuff all the time. They never correct it. They're like, if you made a decision based on what you saw, and if you can come back and tell me that, even if that analysis was 0.2 seconds, if you had some sort of an analysis and made a decision, then you're awesome. Good job. Because now you're making decisions and you're working on that. We can work on making better decisions. But far too often you see kids that are like robots. And I pass here. Well, why'd you pass there? Well, because that's where I'm supposed to pass.
They're just reacting. Yeah, they're just like, oh, freaking out. Here, I'll give it here. I'll pass it left, as opposed to being like, I passed it left because I saw that the runner on my right was going to be open at the second post, so that guy can, And I love what you said. Nobody corrected him. It's just being like, what did you do? And even going through that process. Well, I went left because I saw that, and then maybe then there they can see, maybe that wasn't the best decision. Mm-hmm. But having a decision is the best.
That's the most important thing to them. Is it's all about decisions. And so. And there's some other little pieces too, like one of the rules, I just sent this out to the coaches last week. I said, hey, just a reminder, they also, you will never see them doing technical work at practice. I say never. One of the guys that went with us, Corey Winter, his son is he's got two kids that are both going to be incredible, but his son Xander is the older one right now that's competing with us, and he's a very good player. But he went down to Santos with us, and I was telling him on the plane, like, yeah, man, you're never going to see them do technical work. You won't see technical work. He's like, how do these kids, when they're that young, Santos, how do they not do technical work? I'm like, you won't see it. Watch. The first session we get out there, I'm sitting by Corey, and Xander gets out there to train, and, of course, they start doing technical work. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you guys I went through this whole coaching course. You said you never do technical work. So I went down to the court, and I asked Barata, I was like, hey, man, what are we doing? What are we, like, you're making me look stupid. I got this dad up here that I told on the flight for 10 hours he wouldn't see this. And he's like, no. He's like, we're not doing technical work. And I was like, dude, this is a passing pattern. This is technical work. And he's like, no, we're warming up. He's like, listen to the coaches. What do you hear the coaches saying? And so I started paying attention, and it was all about movements and exploding after the pass. They didn't care if you missed a pass. They didn't care what surface of the foot you used. There was no technical training. It was all about, like, the way your first step looked after you passed. It was all about warm-ups. And so then I walked back up to the thing with Corey with my chest puffed out and was like, yeah, they're not doing technical work. This is what they're doing. And so it made sense. But I told the coaches at Rise, I was like, everything that you do in training is – you should have the player, the player, a teammate, and an opponent. Because only if you're missing any of those three things, you can't have there's not a real futsal decision being made, right? Mm-hmm. So if I do passing patterns where I have teammates, I can make that as complicated as I want, right? I can make a 15 pass passing pattern where there's tons of movement and put 3 balls in it, and it'll look great. And if it works, the parents are going to sit over there and be like, wow, look how incredible we are. but that does not translate into the game, and it never will translate into the game because there's no decision, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. There's no decision.
Right. So because now we're just doing what the robot told us to do, and so so everything with Santos is player, teammate, and opponent, because only when you have at least those three things, and if you add more opponents and more teammates, then the decisions get more complicated, obviously, and you can work into that in a session, but everything you do has to be with a decision, and they believe. So then I asked him too, like, well, when do you do technical work? I mean, and he's like, what is technical work? I was like, we do like TikToks and toe touches, and we do all this technical stuff. And he's like, why? I was like, I don't know. That's just what we've always done in the U.S. That's what my coaches did with me. I thought that's what we're supposed to do.
Fundamentals, coach.
Yeah, it's fundamentals. And he was like, he's like, if they're doing these toe touches, he's like, I want them to work on their technical stuff in a game situation. So in these touches that they're making should be attached to a decision. And if they can do that 10,000 times, now they've perfected the technique that is attached to a decision. And so they can perfect toe touches all you want, but what is that going to do when they get into a game? So Santos believes that you do everything attached to a decision. And futsal's futsal. They get 600% more touches in a futsal game than they do a soccer game.
So many more decisions that they have to evaluate.
Right. So our thought is now you won't ever see when you show up to Rise, if they're doing anything technical, it'll be for a warm up. You won't see it. They won't be part of the session. They won't be teaching technique. It's all about you get your technical training while you're making decisions. And if we run the session right and we don't have big long lines and the kids are going 100 miles an hour the whole time, then we shouldn't have it. They're going to get plenty of technical work. We shouldn't have a problem with that.
This is mind-blowing because with Rise, I guess now you can just focus on the technical work when they're younger, and by the time they get to a good age where they are a little bit better at making decisions, their technical's already going to be there. So it's kind of like a whole pyramid scheme that you have going on where you're kind of just shaving away to a team player that you ideally want. A good decision maker that can just do all that stuff.
Right. And they'll learn, there's certain little techniques that are great for futsal, like a little lifted pass down the line, because it is so easy to close angles in space in futsal in that tighter space. Once you start playing better defenders, the space doesn't become where you can I can fit a pass down the line on the floor. It is like it's got to be between their knee and their elbow, right? Because it's got to be somewhere where they can't block it. It's got to be a little bit up off the ground. So there's some little techniques, but you'll never see us like those 0708 boys. We've never had a session where I'm like, hey, practice the lift pass. We'll never do that, right? Because I only want them to work on that if the game is asking them to do it. If the game's not asking them to use that lift pass, if there's a wide open passing lane, then let's do the more efficient thing that gets the ball down the court. So yeah, that's kind of what in a nutshell, that's sort of what the methodology is. We've also we studied a little bit under Alberto from Barcelona. I believe he's still there. I'm hoping that we get to see him when we're there. But he coached the U14s and the U8s, I think, when I did a course under him. Garrett and I did, I think. And obviously Barcelona is all about rondo. And we feel, and Santos uses rondo quite a lot too. But we feel like with the Santos methodology, if you need a teammate and an opponent and the player in that decision, then rondo obviously satisfies that. And so we use a lot of rondo. So you're talking about like technique with the younger kids. Typically the younger kids do a little bit more rondo than anybody else. And then also an important piece of the methodology is as far as their warm-up goes, there's so many kids in the gym every Sunday that we schedule the sessions every hour and a half. All 3 courts are full. And so we don't have like 15 minutes to do a warm-up at the beginning. So we tell the kids, you guys need to get here early and you warm up on the sides. You get yourself ready, because when you step out here, we go. And I think some of the issue is with them, I don't know if it's because of like soccer or the way it's viewed, but rondo a lot of times is viewed as like a warm-up. And to us, it's absolutely not a warm-up. When you get into rondo, you started the session, you should be at 100%. There should be a lot of movement, and we have 80 different ways to play rondo that we make sure all the coaches have, so they don't ever do the same thing twice, hopefully, or at least not in a row. But rondo is also a really, really, really big piece, and I just told a group on Sunday evening, Garrett and John Jackson were running a session, and Garrett didn't like the way Rondo was going. It was kind of sloppy and a little bit lazy, and so he pulled them all in, and we had this conversation. And I read somewhere a while back, I can't remember where I read it at, but Pep Guardiola said something about how he feels like that he can tell whether a player is a good player or not by watching them play Rondo. And I'm like, man, for a guy that, it's probably the best coach in the last decade at least, to put that much emphasis on Rondo, right? I think Rondo is that important. But then you watch like his Barcelona team or his Bayern team or his City team play Rondo, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. That's not normal Rondo.
That's a different level.
Yeah. So we push Rondo quite a lot too. We tell him if you're not one of the best players in Rondo, then you're probably not going to be on a CCS team. It's that important. Take Rondo seriously. So they do usually do a pretty good job with it, but yeah, that's part of it too. I think Rondo and then the decisions are huge.
Yeah, it's definitely huge. And then just to be able to come up with that type of methodology. You guys have been doing it forever. How many coaches do you guys have now?
We have 9 of us, I think, 8 or 9 of us. We just added, so Ryan Huerta played for me at Southmore, played in Rise ever since he came into high school with me. Actually, no, he was there a little bit before high school, but he
went to Rose?
He went to Northeastern, and he had an injury, and so he basically didn't use any of his eligibility up. So he came back and went to Rose, and then he's done with Rose now. So now he's out in Virginia, and he's loving it. I just talked to him. He was actually the one I said that called me and wanted me to evaluate a little bit yesterday. Nice. So he's out there. He's loving it. He's fighting for minutes, and he's got a very good player that kind of gets more minutes in front of him, but he's doing a good job out there. He's chipping away at the minutes, So
shout out to Ryan. Keep up the good fight, man.
Yeah, he's doing a good job, and so we had him, but since he went to Virginia, we replaced him, and now we've got Noah Nance, who plays at Oklahoma Christian with Mitch.
Yeah. I think I met him on, was it Saturday?
Oh yeah. You met him. Yeah, I met him at the futsal opening. Yeah, so he's working with our youngest group now. He's got my son in his group, and then John coaches at WSA, and we've got Thomas Smith, Evan, Garrett, me. Sam helps out quite a bit, but yeah, the list goes on and on. We've got a bunch of us in there now. But
how many teams?
We if you'd have asked me 3 years ago, I could have told you exactly how many teams. But we've kind of changed the way that we do it now, just for developmental purposes. We changed the way we did our winter leagues too. We're kind of trying to take that Santos methodology of decisions and development and apply it across the board to everything we do. So like, for instance, like with our leagues, it's typically kind of a rule where if you play for Fighting Irish in my league, then you can't play for Southmore in the league, right? We changed it, and now we call it a developmental league, and I don't care if you play on all 8 teams. You want to play futsal 8 times a weekend, then go play futsal 8 times a weekend. And we're just up front with everybody and tell them that you may play the same kid 3 times. We don't care. This is development. We want them to compete, right? And so if they want to play with their club team and their Rise team, then they can. We did the same thing with Academy. Now what we've kind of done is we've made training groups, and so whatever training group fits a kid's development the best is where they train. So if that means they're training down a year, because that's what they need, they're new to it, then that's what they need. If we've got some kids that train up 2 and 3 years because they're just really good. So anywhere where they're benefiting the session and the session is benefiting them is where we put them. And then when CCS tournaments come up, or any tournament for that matter, the coach of these different age groups will pick the team. If I take 1 team or 2 teams to Dallas, then they pick that roster about a month before we go to the tournament, right? So it's a little bit difficult to say how many teams now, because we've just got a whole bunch of kids in Rise, and we select those out as we get close to events.
Sounds like it's more of a pool than...
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That probably makes it a little bit easier than... Yeah, because I love how you have those groups that you're explaining, because it gives everybody some exposure. You know, it gives the younger kids ability to play up, and then it allows the older players that aren't there yet an ability to catch up, as opposed to just dividing everybody into teams and just trying to get a team better. Right. You're individually taking it.
And there's also a component of like leadership where we're really, this 07 or 08 boys, again, for years, Garrett and I we've wanted to change the culture of Rise. And so we, when you go watch like City Futsal play in a tournament, they're like chanting. I mean, it's hard to play against City Futsal because their fans are so loud, and all their other teams that are at the tournament come watch. And we've never really had that. We don't have like Rise chants, and we, the parents and the kids will come play their games, and then they go eat, right? And so we don't have them at our game. And I've always been trying, like, I'll be like, hey, the 06 girls play in a little bit, everybody should go, and then they don't, right? Because it's not our culture. It's not what you do. In club, you walk away, and if you play for South Lakes and you see another South Lakes team playing, you're like, oh, hey, cool, good luck, and you go eat McDonald's. And we've been wanting to change that because the Toke's of the world and the City Futsals and the Yellow Caps, they have big followings. It's an event. And, man, this team being so good in Orlando, it just happened organically. We weren't telling everybody to go. It was like parents sending out to other parents like, hey, they're playing in the national championship. Everybody go. And it ended up being packed, like you said. I mean, other clubs and stuff were there too. It was a huge game. And they put us on the awesome court with the music and lights and all that. But man, our whole side of the stands was packed, shoulder to shoulder. And they completely changed the culture of it. And so with that, we're trying to ride that momentum and change. Talking about those training groups again, as we're trying to. It's really, really cool that, like, say, like a Xander, he's 2012, that sometimes he gets to train up, and he'll train against 09 sometimes. And we have a very good group of 09 boys. Those 09 boys are happy to train with Xander, even though they're much older and they're better, they're bigger, faster, stronger. They're happy to train with them because they understand we've let them train up before too, right? And they thought it was pretty incredible that they got to train with, AJ, the 06 that plays over at Mustang, freshman that started for Mustang last year. Very, very good player. Aiden Jordan, but he was always willing to be like a leader and help those kids out and let them train up with him. And so now it's the 09's turn to let Xander train with them. And then I do the same thing with Xander's group. They're a talented group of 11s and 12s, but I'm like, hey, sometimes there's going to be a 12 or a 13 or a 14 that's going to need to train. Your job's not to sit there and make them look stupid the whole time or beat them down when they mess up. Make them better, just like the 9s did for you and like the 6s did for the 9s. So we're hearing that more from the parents now. They're like, oh, we're happy to stay for an extra session. They can help out with that. They can help the younger kids. That's a big part of the culture, I think, is to get them where you want to get them all to go watch each other. Well, now the 09s want to go watch the 11s and 12s because they've been helping them train all the time.
Yeah, it's a different type of community. Right. It kind of gives everybody a sense of responsibility. It reminds me a lot of whenever we were doing the Sunrise Soccer. We didn't divide people up into teams or anything like that. It was just whoever showed up got to train. Right. And oftentimes that would be a little kid playing with an adult. But the older kids start helping out the little kid. They start, giving him tips. And then, like you said, they're more inclined now to watch those games because that's one of them as opposed to just a kid on a younger team. Right. So, yeah,
And it's part of their development, too, I think, is just Garrett and I talk about, if we feel like with Rise, if we're not developing the leadership components in these kids, then that's a disservice to them, right? They can have their decisions and they can have their technique and they can be incredible players or whatever, right? But if we're not developing the leadership piece where they can go back and help younger kids and be a leader and be a good teammate, then it doesn't matter how technical they get, or they're gonna that technique will take them, so that technique and that their decisions will take them so far, and then they're gonna flatline when they get there because they don't have that leadership and that teammate component. I mean, that's what it is, right? Be a part of the club. The club is bigger than you, and the club's bigger than all of us, and so do your part to support the club and the culture, and then whenever it's your turn to need that help, then you'll get it, right? Because it's who we are. So, but yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. Is that just we want to help them become better leaders, and it's not easy all the time for like a 2012. It's not good. It's not always good. It's always good. It's not always easy for like a Xander to go train down 2 or 3 years, because he is technical. He's a little kid that knows how to do a rainbow every time he wants to. So, he goes up against my son who's a 2014, and I love my kid. He struggles a bit, but if you put Xander against Cragen, rainbow and dribble around Cragen every time he gets the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what you're there for, right? Be a leader, help Cragen be better, help him develop better training etiquette and that kind of thing. And so once we get those kids to understand that their role, now you want to go make somebody look stupid in your age group, hey, dude, go do your thing. Be flashy, be creative. But
it's not going to take you very far.
But it's not going to, you need to help the younger kids, right? So yeah, it's all part of the culture, man. It's certainly not what we thought it would be in the beginning. It's become a whole,
different,
work on it every day type, it takes a lot of our time, but we just freaking love it. It's a lot of fun.
You guys have been doing it for so long. Like, I bet you at this point, do you guys have kids that have come back, that have gone through Rise and then come back to help coach or anything like that?
Yeah, so Ryan did. Jordan Morrison, who is finishing his last year at Rose right now, and he'll move on, but he comes back in and helps quite a lot.
Nice.
But yeah, no, we've had several kids that have come through and then come back and help, or at the very least they'll always come back and help. Not all of them are Rise coaches. A lot of them are playing in college, so they can't really commit to. But when they're in town in the winter, they're always in there for open play, and they'll help us run sessions. And Brantley Bice, Casey Owensby, those guys came through Rise, and they come back whenever they're in town. Like, for instance, as they're back in town this winter break, and we're getting ready for these boys to go play in Barcelona, we'll set up scrimmages, and I'll bring in like Lane Warrington, who played at SMU and is now at St. Louis. We'll bring in Lane and Brantley and Casey, and we'll bring in Ryan and bring in this like star-studded like team that's all bigger, faster, stronger, more technical, and that's who will have the 07-08s play.
Nice.
And so that is really cool, though, that they're always willing to come back and give back. So,
because there's nothing like those little Rise kids seeing the older Rise kids that have gone through it,
right,
and what they've done and achieved, and it kind of just gives them a little bit of a boost,
right,
a motivation.
Yeah, we try to push that, when our kids go do things that are like when they go find success, and like Lane, when at SMU last year, they had a great year. And we try to always make sure that we're putting that out, and like, so these little kids need to know, like, man, this kid came from Lawton, Oklahoma. He trained himself in his backyard. Evan picked him up at Celtic, and man, one thing led to another, and I mean, the kid's gonna he'll be getting paid to play eventually. So it can happen to any of you guys. Honestly,
and I agree. You do have to let people know, because, like I said, if a tree falls in the forest, nobody's there to hear it. I mean, did it fall? Yeah. So yeah, how has it been being there next to Santa Fe South?
Man, it's awesome. Santa Fe South is Chris Brewster, great guy, and I'll tell you the one thing that I think everybody would admire about Chris is this guy is first and foremost 100% always going to be about those kids. Nothing at all will ever come between him and those kids. And I love that about him, right? It's a culture, but like Wes is the same way. Wes is a great guy and obviously doing a great job with Santa Fe South. I mean, that team we're talking about Enid having a good year. Santa Fe South, I think they were probably the best team in the state last year in all classes. I mean, that group is incredible.
Yeah, but not only the group, it's kind of like what we've been talking about Rise, the culture that they've been able to cultivate there, the expectations they have on every player, the team. They have Abel down there as well. They have Paco, who also went to Santa Fe South and played at Mid-America. They've built something pretty good there. Yep.
Charles is there now too. Played at Mid-America. Yeah, it's weird. Mid-America's
it's a funny place, huh?
It is, man. Where like everybody's doing cool things, but they're Abel's doing a good job there too. Wes, I mean, those players. So the cool thing about our relationship there too is we get to train those kids a lot. Garrett and I train and kind of in the off season we get to work with those kids a lot. And man, I'll tell you what, there are some special players over there. I hate to start naming them because I'll forget like some really, really good ones, but you got Jimmy and Jair and Enrique. I know Enrique's one of the captains, and that kid's about as goofy as you could be. He's always like pranking people and playing games and this and that. But he's incredible to have in a session because in the off moments he makes everybody laugh and he's joking around. But when it's time to go, he's in it, right? And he's bringing everybody else up. But man, there are I mean, there are people, I would imagine, at Santa Fe South that don't like get a lot of minutes that would probably start for any 6A school and be one of the better players and start for anybody. They are just incredible, and Wes does a good job of managing that. They all seem to be happy, and
I don't know. I've seen some parents, kind of go off on social media, but it goes back to that conversation that we were having. It's like, as a coach, you got to put your best foot forward, and it's culture and the W's and all that stuff. So it's more than just.
Well, he's winning a lot of state championships. It doesn't matter what class he goes to. It doesn't seem like, so I think he's doing something right. But no, he's been super supportive, and honestly, even like because we renovated some in there. We worked with Santa Fe South, and that facility looks a lot different now. But so volleyball uses it all the time, and basketball uses it all the time, and even people outside of soccer, they're just good people. I mean, we have good relationships with all of them and work really well, and so it's something that is we're super excited about. I told Garrett the other day I would love nothing more than 15 years from now we're still right there in that place, and we're still working with Santa Fe South, and there's nobody else I would rather work with. They're great.
I remember whenever I had first heard that you guys were going to be moving there, that was going to be the home. I was like, that's great. I thought that was a great spot. It's great, like just in the center, and it's pretty accessible to a lot of people. And then with what you guys have done, it's kind of just crazy just to go back and think about it.
It is, man. I felt like we were, maybe biting off a little bit more than we could chew going over there, because we went, we had one court in Mustang when we were over in Mustang, and it was busting at the seams. So I knew that, financially, business-wise, we could move into something with 2 courts, but making a big investment in a facility and making it 3 courts, and now you have to fill 3. I mean, that's the thing with the facility business is if there's not somebody on the court, then you're losing money. And at the end of the day, to be able to provide these opportunities and to do these things for these kids, it's got to be making money too, right? To keep doing this and pay coaches and do all that stuff. So it's and we would prefer to do that as often as possible without passing costs on to parents, right? Our Rise parents, we want to try to make this as affordable and accessible as possible. So that part can be a little bit difficult, but that's a whole nother piece too, that Santa Fe South has been great, and they're like I said, nothing but supportive and helpful, and so we're and they're all like that, man. There's people that a lot of people I don't think probably know, but like Brooks is another guy over at Santa Fe South. Josh does a lot with the maintenance stuff. All these people they're all like a big family and help each other, and they've welcomed us in. So now our biggest thing is we feel like we've been there for a couple of years, and it's helped. We've grown and that kind of thing, and there's several kids in our academy that are Santa Fe South kids or Southeast kids or what. So we've established ourselves, I think, in the community a little bit, but that's our big thing for 2023 is that we really want, because a lot of people don't even know we're there. They don't even know that there's futsal happening in that gym. So without spending a fortune on advertising and stuff, we'd like to figure out ways to where we want to be like more of a part of the community. You know what I mean? Not just this group where people come and train. We want to get out and do things with people, and whatever that is. Go to parent-teacher conferences and shake hands, whatever that is, right? We just want to be out and about a little bit more, I think, and be part of the community, make sure everybody knows that we're there. So, because it is, I know when I was at Crooked Oak, the first about year, it was a little bit difficult for the short, white, bald guy to settle into the community, right? To be like accepted. But man, once it was, you're in, you know what I mean? And it's a special feeling, the way that the parents treated me and the aunts and the uncles and cousins. And it was just, I loved it.
You're part of the family.
Yeah, it was my favorite part. I mean, literally after games, I'd have parents that'd be bringing me like tamales and all this, like, I mean, I ate well when I was at Crooked Oak, but it's just it's an incredible culture, and I feel like we're, maybe in the last 2 years, maybe that's a place where we've kind of fallen short. We're not in that, we're not like accepted in that community yet, and Garrett and I we're really talking a lot about how that needs to be a big focus.
It's so hard though, because you guys have done so much, and you guys, with what you guys have done, is great already. So it's like, to hear that there's still a lot more to do is kind of, it's hard to hear, but it's also kind of great at the same time, you know, because there's more room to improve. But yeah, you guys have done so much, and it sounds like there's just a lot still left to do.
Yeah, there is. There's, you know, I mean, it's exciting,
Yeah.
right? We're not, at least we know we're not in a position to where, like, well, what do we do next?
Yeah, right.
There's something really important to do next, right? And then once we get in and do that, then hopefully that turns into more kids from the community being in the gym all the time, and then we've got another problem to solve. We need more coaches, and we need more opportunities for kids, and those are all really good problems to have. So, but yeah, being teamed up with Brewster and them has been huge. That's what gives us these opportunities to do that and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I just talked to him the other day. He helped me out. He goes in there. I don't know if you know this about Chris, but that guy is like fit.
Yeah, dude, he's a triathlon, marathon runner.
Yeah, so he goes in. I'm not sure where all he runs, to be honest, but I know
He just probably runs around all the schools just to make sure they're doing all right or something.
just checks all the doors on foot. But I know he spends some time running in the gym in the morning, and so we'll leave like a futsal ball. I'll get behind like the weights or something. We won't see it when we're picking up, and so we like the last 2 weeks. Garrett and I are like, dude, are people walking out with their futsal balls? We've never had that problem. So like, this cage is getting it's getting a little bit thin. And then Chris comes in the other night and is like, hey man, I have something for you. I was like, all right. So I follow him into this room, and he has these huge plastic tubs full of futsal balls that I guess he's just been collecting for weeks and weeks. There's been one or two laying out, and so I went and aired them all up, and now our cage is full up again. Yeah, so shout out to Chris for not making me go buy more futsal balls.
He's a great dude, man. He's when I spoke to him on, I forgot what episode it was because I've had him on the podcast too. He's very much like you said, for the kids, and that's it reminds me of that quote: "Be the kid you wish you had as a kid." And he's like become that guy for so many other kids.
Yeah. Seeing the way that the kids interact with him too is cool. There's been, you know, when we'll get in early, especially in the winter, because you'll have wrestling in and basketball in, and so when we come in to kind of start getting set up, there's 100 kids in there, right? Santa Fe South kids, and several times I've been in there when Chris is in there, and you'll see just the way that, you know, I mean, he's a superintendent. He's like he's at the top of this, right? And so you know you could see some superintendents that they don't have that personal relationship with all these different kids, right?
4,000 students.
It's a big place, man. But these kids, they all know, and they all feel comfortable coming up and like, hey, Mr. Brewster, and they're, you know, or hugging him or giving him a high five or whatever. And it's a unique. You can the way he handles himself there, you can tell he's doing it the right way. Those kids care, and when they all leave and graduate, their kids will come back and go to Santa Fe South because of that experience, and they'll keep in touch with him, which is always important for all of us, you know, to have a relationship after kids leave. But
yeah, he has kids who've gone to school, had kids, and then go to the school. That's just a whole different level. That's eventually what you're going to get to with Rise. You're going to have kids who had kids, and then they're going to go play at Rise, and they're just going to be just a Rise all the way through.
Yeah, we're getting close now. So a couple, German Martinez and Stephanie Martinez played at Crooked Oak for me. And their little 2015 son is playing for us at Rise now. And as soon as they brought him in,
he's like, a baller, isn't he?
He's good.
I've seen the videos of their kid.
Yeah, he plays up a little bit. I think he looks like he's 2 years older than he is. The kid's a big, tall, strong kid. But yeah, he's good. He was in Florida with us. He went and played up. It was a 13, 14 age group. But I mean, he went and played a lot of minutes, and he doesn't look like a 2015, but. I felt pretty old when they walked in the first time. Like, hey, we're gonna put our kid in Rise, and I was like, oh man, I remember when you guys were kids.
That's funny, huh? Where do you feel futsal is here in Oklahoma City? Because there aren't very many clubs in the city, would you say? I mean, and if there are, they're just. I feel like it's weird because, you know, you have all the outdoor stuff, but then all those outdoor kids are also futsal kids, and I feel like it's in a weird spot. But where would you say futsal is here in the city?
I mean, you know, for us, I feel like we're in a good place. You know, just speaking selfishly for a second, I feel like we're in a good place. I mean, the CCS thing is huge. to be accepted in that, there's a lot of requirements and that kind of thing. So it's I feel like we are in a pretty good place. Obviously a lot of room to grow, but then, you know, you've got Rafa competes quite a lot with RB7. We compete against them a lot. We share players even sometimes, depending on what each of us are doing and that kind of thing. So that relationship is good. And then
you know, another MACU guy, huh?
Another MACU guy, yeah. So it's you know, there's not a lot, but to be fair, only a percentage of the soccer players are playing futsal right now, right? So
that's a good point.
I feel like we're, you know, if you kind of narrow it down to 2 or 3 clubs that focus on futsal, it's about all that right now that I think that the numbers can take, right?
That's out there.
Yeah, the soccer market or whatever, the futsal market isn't a big one, so it would be probably counterproductive for all of us if there were 6 or 7 clubs. You know, I mean, for the people who are playing futsal right now, there are plenty of room. There's plenty of room in those places for people still to grow. So it is in a little bit of a weird spot, I think. But futsal around the country is a little bit like that too. We're kind of, you know, futsal exploded. It was sort of the buzzword 5 or 6 years ago, and everybody wanted futsal all the time, futsal. And then, you know, that kind of wore out, and now it's the people who genuinely understand the benefit of it and are not in it because it's a buzzword. They're in it because, like, oh man, I saw my teammate, you know, he was on the 4th team last year and now he's on the 2nd team.
So I was going to say, eventually some of these kids that aren't playing futsal are going to get left behind.
Oh, for sure.
The sooner that some of these kids implement futsal into their life, their outdoor game is just going to change, and it's just only a matter of time. So that's why I think it's in a funny spot, because there's still so much that can grow, considering all the futsal courts that are everywhere. We're enabled more to play more, and I think it's only going to boom. But yeah, it's getting there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and there's still pushback as well. You know, I mean, there's still I'm not going to say any names, but you know, there's people here in Oklahoma City that coaches that'll tell their kids, don't play futsal. Futsal doesn't help you. It's you know, you're dribbling too much, you're doing this, you're doing that, or whatever the case is. And to be fair, you know, like not to defend anybody that would say don't play futsal, because that's exactly against my belief. But depending on how you teach futsal, right? If you view futsal as like the street soccer thing, where all it is rainbows and megs and everybody dribble, then I could see where somebody teaching that might be counterproductive to somebody who wants to play like a possession game. I could see a coach not like. I would still argue that, you know, Neymar didn't train 40 hours a week, but he probably played 40 or 60 hours a week. He was playing street soccer all the time and stuff where he wasn't coached. I think that's a big part of what we're missing here in Oklahoma City is kids are just coached too much. I think
agree.
They need to just go play and have fun. But there is some pushback still where I think, you know, futsal education will be important. I think not everybody understands, like we talked about, our methodology, right? I think it would be hard for any outdoor coach to understand the way that we're teaching these kids to play futsal and not believe in that, right? I mean, we're teaching them these decisions. If the game is asking you to break lines of pressure and go forward, and that's what the outdoor coach wants to. You want to score goals. We defend. One of our big pieces of our methodology is to defend behind the line. We get all of our numbers behind the line. We defend with 4 every time. That's what outdoor coaches want. They want people to work hard defending and not take plays off. So I think a lot of it depends on, you know, how the kid is being taught futsal as well. If they're being taught to dribble all the time and then they go to outdoor and you got your center back that's trying to dribble through 2 strikers, I could see a coach getting upset about that. But at Rise, if our fixo, which is sort of a center back position for futsal, if our fixo, you know, was trying to dribble through 2 players in front of our goal, they'd hear it from us, right? Like, hey, why did you do that? And so I think there's just some misconceptions too. I think a little bit about what futsal actually is. Everything. I think somebody could watch our sessions. There's not one thing about what good futsal does for a player that doesn't benefit them in soccer. Every single thing. Even people will say like, well, you guys use the sole of your foot a lot. Well, watch Neymar, watch Lewandowski. I mean, these guys use the sole of their foot all the time in the Champions League finals. And futsal, sometimes it's so quick that a toe bash is a good shot to toe poke it. And I'll hear coaches too, oh, don't use your toe. I'll hear parents too telling their kid, don't use your toe. And then, we're not running sessions where I'm teaching kids to shoot with their toe. But at the same time, if that's the only shot you have and it ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah, dude. Look at Ronaldinho when he scored it against Chelsea in the Champions League. Like, that's just, you have to be resourceful. But I agree.
It's an effective, all these techniques are effective. And the more techniques a kid has when they get out and play soccer, the better more for weapons, them, right? Yeah. So I think that is why it's in a little bit of a weird spot is we're kind of at this moment now where we're all deciding, I've been saying for years, futsal is the best it's the best developmental tool in the world for a soccer player. In my opinion, futsal is a better developmental tool for soccer players than soccer is at a young age. And I could argue that all day long, but I think we're at a little bit of a crossroads now where everybody's kind of trying to decide, is that true, right? Is futsal really this developmental piece that we need to have in our club? That is it that important? Yes. And it is, and they'll figure that out, right? I mean, several clubs already have. The Rapids have all their kids play futsal. Up in Kansas City, Sporting Kansas City, they all play futsal.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's so easy to see that that's the reason why some of these places are so good. The 3 Brazilians that I've had all tell me about how in Brazil, it's futsal until you're 11. And then after that, it's outdoor. And by the time they're in outdoor, we know the benefits that they're going to have when they go outdoor. It's just dumb. So it just makes...
We played against Rafa. We know what Rafa can do.
Dude, he's like a monster, dude. It's just... It makes no sense why we haven't come to that conclusion. But like you said, we'll get there.
We'll get there. I mean, we're further now than we were 10 years ago. We're further now than we were 5 years ago. So I think... and like this group going is a big deal. I mean, even like at Southmore, my boys there, a whole lot of them are playing futsal now, right? And there are several of them that are at Southmore were kids that grew up in the futsal academy. And man, I watch them out there playing soccer, and I could, if I didn't know their names and had never seen them, I could look at them and I could tell exactly which ones of them played futsal. They're way more comfortable in tight spaces. Their decisions are much faster. They're thinking 2 and 3 plays ahead. They always check their shoulder because if you don't in futsal, you get killed. So it's helping me at Southmore. I enjoy it. I'm glad that I've got kids that grew up playing futsal with me now. So
it's a good point that you brought up because we haven't even talked about your Southmore stuff. You're the head coach at Southmore. How this year going in? How many years is that going to be?
This will be year 9. Yeah.
Year 9. Good season. Looking forward to it. What?
Yeah. No. I mean, I think that we were pretty good last year. I think we ended up one game out of playoffs. We were very, very young. There were several games last year where I started 9 or 10 freshmen and sophomores, all under class, and that's just tough to do, man. You go play Deer Creek with 9 freshmen and sophomores. That's a tough game. This year there's gonna be a lot of sophomores and juniors, and then I've got a few seniors that also have been playing the whole time, and they've a couple of seniors, Pacer Zaire and Zach Parsons, 2 captains, but they're also they've just really come into themselves this year. You know how players do when they get rid of that senior class ahead of them and they can step into the role they want. They've come a long ways. Austin Hurt has been incredible for me and for energy. He scored the game winner in the national championship for that 06 team.
Yeah. It's a big accomplishment there, isn't it?
Yeah, big deal for them. And Michael Carrizales also plays. He also was on that national championship team. Okay. He'll be playing for me. But yeah, man, it's tough. We're in a district where there's 3 high schools, so we all share that pool. We all share a bunch of good players. You know what I mean? If we had one varsity team for all 3 schools, we'd be Broken Arrow.
Yeah, there's I guess that's a problem across all of Oklahoma City because there's 5 here in Oklahoma City too, just within the highway, and then 3 in Moore. You got 2 in Norman, 3 in Edmond. That's a lot.
Mustang's doing it right.
Yeah, are they? Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Mustangs like we're
They
not
were
splitting up.
so close. They've been so close these past few years, man.
They're Jared's doing a great job, man. He's and there are a lot of good players, and maybe it's because of kind of our the futsal route started in Mustang. That's where Garrett and Evan are from, and that they have their family is well connected there and well liked. But we still have a lot of kids from Mustang in the gym, and I can tell you, Jared is not gonna be hurting for talent over the next. They just keep coming.
So what do they do differently in Mustang? Because Mustang just puts out players.
Man, it's huge. First of all, I mean, like for instance, I don't know how many Mustang had come out this year, but like I've got 48 kids out for soccer this year at Southmore, which to be fair is a little bit of a small year. Usually I end up about 60. I had a big graduating class last year, but comparatively speaking to a Mustang or a Broken Arrow or a Jinx,
Union or something like that.
Union, they have 200 kids that want to play soccer for them, right? So it's it's just the way it rolls. But no excuses from us because we're this year we have a very solid team. They know that I'm a black and white, call it like it is, with them, and so we are talented, and we are they play well together when they're playing well together, but they do right now we're working through a lot of like be a good teammate, right? Like the negativity is something that's been driving me nuts a little bit in training. I think there's a big difference between being a teammate that like if I make a mistake, and you can say things to me 4 or 5 different ways, right? And some ways are gonna
motivate me, and
piss
others
me
are gonna
off.
put me down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're working through that a little bit right now, where I think we're being a little bit too hard on each other, but also, this is a 6A varsity program, and so you can't be soft-skinned either. So there's a balance there where I feel like, captains and upperclassmen especially, they should be able to call you if you're not working hard enough and that kind of thing. But I think for me the balance right now is you've probably seen that list, that 10 things that require 0 talent. So I use that with them a lot of them. If somebody's not doing one of those 10 things, light them up, right? Because they're making a choice not to be a good teammate. And if they do that, then they deserve to hear it. But it should be from everybody, because you should all be ready to call somebody on that. But if they make a bad touch, or they shoot near post when they should have gone far post, stop. Just hey man, you get it next time. Let's go. And I think that's at that age, they're pumped full of testosterone and going a million miles. And I think they're just they struggle a bit. I know I did when I was their age. I struggled a bit with how do I figure out what to say and when to say it as a leader. And so it's a good problem to have. I think I've got a whole bunch of kids that have a captain band in their sight in the future. They've talked to me about it, and they want to be a leader. So they're all trying to step into those roles and be leaders. And so, but sometimes we don't always do it the right way. So that's our struggle, I think, right now. And for this year, that'll be the big focus. But no, we'll be better than we were last year, I think, for sure.
It must be totally different dealing with the futsal at Rise and then coming to deal with high school, because it's 2 totally different spectrums. Like, how do you compartmentalize it all, especially during the spring?
It's the spring, it works out calendar-wise because the futsal calendar is kind of around the soccer calendar. There's a little bit of overlap in the summer because, like, Southmore is one of the host sites for summer league. And I'll have to go to Vegas for NTC. Like one year I missed a little bit of summer league. So there's a little bit of overlap, but for the most part, I go from, fall training with Southmore, and then I get into the winter and we go a million miles an hour for futsal for 3 months, and then futsal dies down a bit and everybody gets into their spring club season, and it's a little bit slower for a while, and I'm focused on Southmore. But a lot of the things, the way that I coach Southmore has been massively influenced by the Santos stuff too. I do, you won't catch us doing a lot of technical stuff either. In the fall, we do a little bit. Soccer is a little bit different than futsal, I think, but we a lot of the stuff I do is I'll take things that I learned from Santos, and I'll just, okay, how can I make this a soccer game, a soccer drill, and I'll use it a lot. So like those guys that have played futsal in the academy for years, they come out to training and they're like, oh, I've seen this, but it's a little bit different, but I've seen this game before. So there's a lot of overlap for me, to be honest. I don't have to compartmentalize it a lot. I just share. So.
And you don't do club either, so it's just futsal and sophomore.
Yeah, I tried the club thing. Wasn't a fan.
No.
So.
Where'd you play? Coach at?
I was at, and it had nothing to do with the club. I coached for Don over there at Celtic.
Okay.
And I liked the parents and the kids. I liked all the Don was good. I enjoyed all that stuff. I just training 2 times a week at night, and then the weekends are just so packed. You know what I mean? And when I was doing that, I was newly married, and she was pregnant, and I was like, I just started thinking like, man, being gone 2 nights a week and every weekend. And then, if Cragen ends up playing and I'm coaching club, if I'm established in club and doing that a lot, then I'm gone all the time I don't get to watch him play. Because a lot of my friends coach club, and I hear them say that, like, I didn't get to watch her play because I had a game on the other field. And
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice they have to make, and the families make. And so, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So
that's one of the hard things about coaching club is, I don't know, like my wife tells me, she says, you should go coach club. And I said, do you really want me to coach club? Because here's what this entails. And then as I started breaking it down to you like you did, she was just like, you know what, you have a point. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a big sacrifice. But I mean, it sounds like you got it pretty figured out then. Yeah,
I kind of like where it's at right now. I don't and and the other thing too is, like, Garrett's the same way. With Garrett and I, kind of being the directors of Rise, and we run it sort of together. It's really, really important to us that we have a really good relationship with all of these clubs, right? With Brandon over at South Lakes, and with Hampton, and with Phillips over at OEFC, and across the board, right? Matt and Yazzie everywhere. So we try to, but if Garrett goes and coaches a team at South Lakes, and I go coach a team, whatever, OEFC or at Sport, whatever, right now our Rise is full of kids from all different clubs and from all different walks of life, some that don't play club. But the thing is what we would never want is for them to feel like that we're showing favoritism to any one club, right? We want to make sure that they all feel like we're
kind of working hand
that
in
we're
hand.
Working with them, right? We're trying to make Rise look really good and go win games and compete, but we're developing these kids that will then go back to your club and be better. We don't want any recruiting stuff, and don't let any of that kind of stuff happen in the gym. So we that's another reason too why it's sort of just.
Yeah, you've been able to put yourself aside by not being in a club.
Right.
So
right. So Evan, he's not coaching club, and Garrett and I know just don't have any plan to do it. I just feel like it would kind of throw a wrench in.
Yeah, kind of complicated a little bit, wouldn't it? Yeah. So you guys have been doing it good, man. Dude, well, I'm excited to see what Barcelona is gonna entail for you guys.
It's gonna be exciting. I think a lot of it will be live streamed. It has been in the past, so I'm assuming that it'll probably all be live, and so we'll make sure that you guys get that link. And
that's good, man. If I was rich, I'd be like, hey, I'll go and be your camera guy for free. I mean, just go tag along to be in Barcelona.
Dude, I wish we could find the money to do that. I was telling you about the friend who helped me with the fundraising stuff and kind of gave me some better ideas. And we were talking, and she said too, she's like, man, that's what you guys need. You need somebody to go that knows how to run cameras and can take video and do all this. And I was like, yeah, but it's just
it's a whole different thing, dude. Yeah.
Getting somebody there, and then even packing all this stuff on a plane would be a lot. But if there is some way to figure it out, really, we want to try to do something, because it's just harder. United Futsal will be doing stuff too. There will be pictures and that kind of thing, but it's they got to get everybody right. So it'd be cool for this type of opportunity to have somebody there that could focus just on our kids.
Well, dude, count me in for that idea that we had of telling those stories of those kids. If you have, we can write up some questions, put a camera in front of them, and just hit record. And I think that'd be an easy W to do. Yeah,
for sure. We'll do it. We'll find a time that when I know for sure every one of them are going to be at training or something, and I'll get with you.
I'll just peel them away for 5 minutes at a time. Yeah. And then next, when you guys get done with Barcelona, I want to sit with both you and Garrett together at the same time.
Okay.
That'd be gold. I think that'd be really cool to do.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty to talk about.
Yeah, dude, he's great too. He's great too.
Yeah, I watched your episode with him. What did he get into? He was talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, he was great. him and Dressel are both funny in that aspect too, because Garrett is a little bit more like, I know where he's going with it when he comes to it. But when I'm joking around with Dressel, sometimes I don't know if Dressel's being serious, and then I'm just like, when we get past it, I was like, oh, okay, Dressel's joking a little bit, and then you kind of play it. But they're both awesome.
They are both, and they're different with it too, right? They're just like, but they're both hilarious. But yeah, Evan is he's definitely one that you're like, are we laughing, or are you being serious?
Yeah,
he catches people like that a lot, I think. And then Garrett's just like, whatever comes to mind, man. He's rolling and talk about Bigfoot or futsal or soccer or whatever. He's good. So
if you could compare yourselves to a superhero, like, I didn't want to say who's the Batman, who's the Robin, but like, which one would you and he be? Like, let's say, which one would you say Garrett is? Like, what superhero is he out there on the football pitch as a coach?
In this 07-08 team, man, I hate to say this. I'm gonna tell him to cut it off before we get to this part. In this team, he definitely leads the way.
Yeah.
And I definitely, and I enjoy that. I'm really, because I'm at Southmore, I'm the head coach. With all the futsal stuff, I'm always the head coach. I've really enjoyed kind of being the Robin on this 07-08 group. Just developing relationships with them. But Garrett definitely takes the lead, and this group of kids is, like I've said, is so unique that I honestly think that they're better with him doing that. Like, if Garrett and I switched roles, my coaching style and just kind of the way I am, I don't think it would fit them as well. I think we wouldn't be as good if I was the one leading the way on this team. So Garrett for sure is the one that he leads everything, and so my role is like during the games, I'm like, if I see something tactical or whatever, I'm like, hey Garrett, this is what I'm thinking, and he'll either use it or won't or whatever. But yeah, but nowhere else in the world am I his Robin.
That's funny. That's what I kind of chuckled a little bit beforehand, is just listening to him hear this and then bring it back to you later, like, just to see what he says. That's funny. The other thing that I thought was interesting too is I always like to, not always, but sometimes when I remember, it's just like to pick at these moments that if it could have gone differently, your role here would have been different. Would you say that was signing on to play at MacU?
Oh, for sure. That was I'll say, I'm still paying MacU off, but so that's a hassle. But I'll tell you what, there's no telling where my life would have gone if I would have gone to the Army and done all that. You
said you were this close. You basically one leg in, one leg out.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. The recruiter that I was working with was not pleased when I came in and told him I was gonna go play soccer instead. He was impolite.
Yeah.
But we man, MacU, going to MacU, I have zero regrets. I loved every minute of it there. I made some of my best friends, guys that I have moved on and done great things in life that I don't get to see a lot, but like Bryce Jantz from Woodward, one of my best friends, would do anything for him now, and John Gonsalves, he met his wife at MacU, and they have a gorgeous little boy now, but I just talked to his wife the other day, actually. She's awesome too, but they, I've met some of my best friends there. And then I ended up meeting Cragen's mom at MacU, and we started dating at MacU and ended up getting married. I mean, so really gave me my son. I mean, everything that kind of happened from MacU is that's where my whole life, everything that I do now. I met Garrett there and Evan there, so obviously we would have never done futsal together if I wouldn't have met them. So pretty much everything I do now is because of that MacU decision.
That's wild, dude. And I see a lot of people that have come from MacU just doing a lot of things. It may be because we came from MacU and we see that, but it just does seem like the people that we've seen there, soccer-wise, they're all out doing something.
I've talked about that a lot with different people, especially with like Zach and Evan. I tell them, like, man, you guys have a lot to be proud of, because you look at all these kids that have come through you guys when we were just kids, chasing a dream, and now they're all out being successful, right? We could have all just finished that and skated through and then been bums afterwards, but I was like, dude, you guys have a bunch of kids everybody's doing something cool. And the thing that's cool to me is that a whole bunch of them are doing something that's cool in soccer or somehow still related to the game somehow. Like Miller is, I know he does real estate and mean, that's a whole different.
Mm-hmm.
But he still is like, he still plays some and is involved, and I know at one point he was kind of running a food truck, and so he brought his food truck down and fed all my boys at Southmore one day.
Nice.
But they're doing like cool things, right? They're successful and they're still working hard, and you're right, and they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. They're all over the place. They're all over Santa Fe South. Mm-hmm. And everybody's doing cool stuff.
What do you think about that futsal pitch that they just opened up downtown? Have you seen it yet? You did get to see it.
Yeah, because we were there and we did the opening, which, man, I think that was like that had to have been the 20th one that we've opened with Tim and them. I honestly, I texted Tim last night and I was like, man, how many have we opened? Because I've lost track. I started trying to look back at pictures on Facebook, and I'm like, I have no idea how many we've done. Maybe 24, I don't know. But
Did he give you an official number?
No,
I would love to know too.
Yeah, I'll find out though. But it has to be in the mid-20s. I mean, I feel like I can safely say that it's mid-20s. They're all over the place, and you know, McLaughlin and those they do some really cool stuff. Just about as selfless as they could be. Mm-hmm. You know, sharing those resources and stuff is pretty incredible. And putting these in places where kids can just go play for free, and places where kids need to go play for free is pretty cool. But yeah, that one's awesome with the little pickleball courts.
Pickleball looks exciting too.
And man, just the
vibe, the atmosphere.
Dude, that bridge looking down. I was thinking, because they have the lights on the court, and I'm thinking, dude, could you imagine playing futsal at like 10 p.m. with some friends on that court, and then having that bridge lit up? Mm-hmm. It's gonna be for some cool pictures.
I want to see soccer have a whole 24-hour event where we can just program it to be like, Kit, you bring your kids for 4 hours, I'll have somebody else come for 4 hours. But the point is, it's going to be 24 hours of just nonstop soccer, and it's just going to be like some crazy thing to do. I think that'd be pretty fun to see. And then the turf field as well, the outdoor turf field. Man, that thing is immaculate. I've seen so many people go take pictures. I'm actually going to try to go out there today at 6:30. But today's going to be full of soccer. I want to go out there, but then there's the football fiesta going on in MacU. Do you know about it as well?
Yeah, I saw that.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. We're in good hands.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people doing some really cool things. And like even that netting system that's up behind that goal I drove by and it's like top class. Mm-hmm. That's some good stuff. And all those courts are really nice though. Tommy Noble and those guys do a great job. They take a lot of pride in their work. And there's all of everything that we've opened. The one in Tuttle, I don't know if you knew, but they're one of those courts are in Tuttle, Oklahoma. We opened that one up over there too, and that one's sweet too. Yeah. So I mean, anywhere where they found somebody that will work with them and wants to do it, they put a court in.
Yeah, because we occasionally get messages and say, hey man, we need one in Enid, we need one in Clinton, we need one in. People want it.
Yeah, I know. And I don't want to speak for anybody that does this because I don't build them or finance them, but I don't think there's that many more that are going. I mean, I think it was supposed to start at like 5, and then it went up to 12, really? And now we're in the 20s. I don't know that there's another city in the country that has as many as what we have.
That's what that's what I've been saying for a while. I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds really good to say, doesn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure. Well, I went to the big coaching the national coaching convention. We go every year, my sophomore coaches and I, and the guys some of the guys who were involved in this were there. They had like a booth set up, and they're like, oh yeah, this is how they set up, this is what they kind of look like. And I was like, yeah, no, I know we have some of them in our town. He's like, well, where are you from? And I was like, Oklahoma City. And he like looked at me, and I was like, what? And he's like, oh, so you guys are like the big deal when it comes to these. Even he was saying like Oklahoma City you guys are like our favorite. We tell everybody about Oklahoma City and what you guys are doing with all these futsal courts there. So even for, people in different states and stuff, people who are involved in this at the very top, they were like, oh yeah, Tim McLaughlin. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, those guys are great. And you guys have more of these than anybody. And so I think there is one other city. I can't remember. I think Tim said one day there was one other city that has a bunch, but I'm not sure anybody has more than us. If they do, it's got to be pretty close.
Kit said from Kit's mouth, we're the futsal mecca of the United States.
We're on our way. No, we really. With NTC coming here and with that showcase being here, kids going to Spain and playing, I think we're getting pretty close. I mean, I think I think other cities would be hard pressed to say that they're doing a whole lot more than us.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the title of the podcast, Oklahoma City, the Mecca of futsal.
Yeah,
that's going to be good. That's with Kit of Rise Futsal. That's good, man. Yeah. Well, do you have anything else to say? Anything else you want to add on? Any messages you want to send out to anybody?
No, I mean, I think, things are happening over there at the gym and stuff. If you guys want, if there is anybody we have, other classes and stuff too. So if there's anybody that wants to just try it out and test it, then all my contact information's on the website, just shdfutsal.com, and reach out to us and we'll find a place and, come check it out.
And there's donations. There's GoFundMe. There's maybe a Cash App somewhere that they can send $5-6 to. Yeah, whatever you have, send it this way so we can post it.
Yeah, if anybody wanted to, just Sports House Development's our Cash App. It wouldn't be hard to find. And as long as they just make sure that, because we use the Cash App for like people buy concessions and stuff too. So if they earmark like, hey, donation to 0708 Boys or donation to Barca trip, we'll take it however we can get it. We're doing everything we can to try to get these kids there and have a little bit of a stress-free as much as possible trip. So
nice. Let's make it happen.
Yep.
Side question: how do I go to the National Coaches Convention? How do I sign up for that?
Do
I have to be a coach for that?
No, you can. There's people from kind of all different. Well, I know some parents that go, but you buy a membership to it used to be NSCAA, but they changed it. But you buy a membership to the organization, and then the coaches convention, I think it costs like $300 or something like that.
Okay.
And it's a little bit expensive, but it is incredible. I mean, they bring in people like 2 years ago for the futsal part. They brought in the Argentina national coach about 2 months after he just won the futsal World Cup with Argentina. So he was there teaching the futsal stuff, and he'll do classroom stuff and he'll do on the court stuff. And Keith Tozier from US Futsal was there. But yeah, they do a very, very good job, and they have classes from everything from like sports psychology and it's all revolving around soccer, and you're around 10,000 soccer coaches. So you want to like network and be in an area with people like you. It's pretty incredible. I go every year. I think this year it's in Philadelphia.
Really?
So I think it was in Kansas City last year, but they've had it in Anaheim, and they take it to some pretty cool places too. So that makes it a draw.
Yeah, makes it what time of the year is that it comes by?
In January.
In January of every year? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to have to tag along with you.
Yeah.
Send me
it's
the
awesome.
note. Because I had seen people go last year, and I was like, dude, that seems so awesome.
I've seen a whole bunch of them. Like Jared goes every year from Mustang. Eddie Wright, who was at PCO, is now at Oklahoma City. He would go all the time. I don't know if he's going to go as an AD now, but he would go all the time when he was coaching. And then tons of club coach. I see people all the time in OEFC and South Lakes and Sporting. I know Yazzy's been a few times, and so it's a whole bunch of us from Oklahoma go too, which is kind of cool.
You brought up Eddie Wright. I was trying to end the podcast. But like, have you spoken to Eddie? I'm pretty sure he told me he had been bouncing some ideas off of you, because I had spoken to him whenever they did the opening at Southern Oaks Park.
Yeah.
Dude, what does he have to do? Like, how can we assist with that? Like, because the vision he has is to implement that into middle school soccer, middle school sports. Yeah. And then, I mean, why not have something? And do you think we have room for it as a high school sport, futsal, or?
To me, it makes perfect sense. I'm working on that a little. I mean, the thing to me is like, why would it not be a high school sport? You do it in the fall when nobody's in basketball courts. They're not playing outdoor.
And that would take the kids away from. I want to play soccer. There isn't anything going on. I guess I'll run cross country because they're going to force me to do cross country.
Yeah, they have choices now, right? And they could even do futsal and cross country. They like whatever they wanted to do. And the thing is every school in the state that has basketball has a futsal court. It'd be very, very easy to do. I mean, adding futsal comparatively to like adding some other sport where you'd have to build facilities and do all that, it would be a cost-efficient sport to add, right? And you could have boys and girls, so you don't have a Title IX problem. To me, it makes perfect sense. And not to mention that futsal is kind of like for people who, aren't big soccer fans, and maybe soccer's a little bit slow. You hear people say like, oh, it's 1-0. How do you watch a game 1-0? Futsal's not like that, right? It's action-packed the whole time.
It's constant
other
offense.
people, they would enjoy that, right? The rules themselves kind of dictate that you have to go forward all the time too. So I think that, to me, it makes perfect sense. And then, with Eddie specifically in Oklahoma City, I mean, with all these futsal courts everywhere, there's probably 24 different ways that we could implement this. And I know Eddie's got some ideas. And the thing that I love about Eddie is when he decides he wants to do something for the kids, he's going to do it. He's kind of cut from that cloth like Brewster and them. They're in it for the right reasons and doing the right thing. So there's some things in the works that I probably can't say a whole lot about right now, but I know that there are some things that people that have the power to get things done are working on some things to try to make this more accessible to everybody around.
Nice. We need to have it, dude. I'm just like you. There's no reason why we shouldn't. I see more positives in bringing futsal in to that kind of space than negatives.
And if it goes into like college too, and I know we got to end the podcast. So this is
I honestly don't have it. I'm off today, just like you are. So if we can find another topic to touch on, we will.
Well, the thing with taking it into high school, and there's been a lot of discussion. I've talked to Rob Andrews about this. I spoke briefly at the coaches convention to Keith Tozier about this. But there's this disconnect, right, where they go from youth futsal has grown so much in the country, where they're playing this, club soccer, club futsal version of it, and then there's nothing in high school, and then there's nothing in college. Where in these other countries, that futsal is an avenue to become a pro. There's a Thomas from City Futsal, grew up playing futsal for City Futsal in Dallas. He plays in France now. Cassie Hammock, who coached for us, she's from France, and she grew up and came through the PSG Academy. She played futsal. So she was like a pro futsal player on the women's side and then she moved here and played at USAO and played for Hampton and everything. But there's an avenue for these kids, but our kids have to leave and go to France to go do it, or leave and go wherever to Brazil to go do it. And there's this weird disconnect, but there's been a lot of discussion about does it need to go into the college level first, to where the high schools are like, well, you have to have it now, or is it something where we put it in the high schools first and then the colleges see benefit, right? Financial benefit too. That's going to be a big piece of it especially for at the college level. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, how sweet would it be for a guy like an Evan Dressel who knows futsal, and he can go recruit these kids, and now he's the head futsal coach and the head soccer coach, and do it just like they do in high school. In Oklahoma, you'd have futsal in the fall and soccer in the spring. And then obviously college soccer, they play in the fall. So why couldn't we do futsal in the spring for them, right? And then, so now when he's recruiting, he has other scholarships, because he's in any of these schools that can stack scholarships. I could bring you on and I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you $5,000 for soccer. I'm going to give you another $5,000 for futsal.
That's true.
It would make everybody's life easier with that. They'd sell tickets, right? And all these colleges have facilities to run futsal. So, but I'm kind of the opinion that I think maybe it should be in high schools first.
It'd probably be an easier barrier of entry to get into high school. Doing it successfully in high school than it is for college.
It's a matter of getting OSSA to buy in. So we might need to like have everybody start signing something where we can like a petition and go to them and say, and have like a real discussion, right? I don't want it to go where we're just like sending something like, hey, this is why it would work, yes or no. I want to like sit down with somebody and visit about, because they may have some really good reasons for no. You know what I mean? I want to hear those as well. But no, I think, to me right now, sitting in my seat, which like I said, I don't know, I don't look at it from an AD's perspective or from OSSA's perspective, but for me, from my limited view, it seems like a no-brainer.
From the perspective of the director of Rise Futsal. What you mean?
It just seems like it would be beneficial for everybody. And you get these kids into sports. The more often they're in those team settings, the less often they're doing something stupid. So let's give them more to do, right?
I agree.
So and the great thing about school sports is they're free. So if we could get it into high school and junior highs, then man, you'd you could touch a lot of lives with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing video games competitively now in high school, so why not do futsal?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of rumors about that's fixing to blow up too. It's already kind of blown up, right?
Yeah, they have scholarships for that too in colleges now. I mean, MacU has the esports team too.
I saw that. That's crazy.
So I think futsal, it's like I said, or you said as well, it's in a funny spot where it's just, and no better time than 4 years from now when the World Cup is going to happen here in the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans for that?
Not yet. I'm because we're going to be in Spain in December.
Let me get done with Spain and then
so we're going to be like, I mean, it's just because the World Cup's in the winter. We got this weird World Cup coming up, and so we're.
Oh, it's gonna happen right after the World Cup too. So you guys are gonna be full of soccer. It's just gonna be a good fall. Yeah. It's gonna be a good end of this year, huh?
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to all that. It just being in that culture because it's a much different soccer culture than here. Just being around that when surrounded by World Cup time is gonna be a lot of fun. Dude. I think.
Nice.
So. Yeah, and then you have like Camp Nou and stuff there too. So I really want to try to figure out a way to get all these boys on like a tour and let them go see that place.
You're already there.
I mean,
we're already in Spain.
It's World Cup year. Let's just flip and do everything that's cool.
Do it, dude. That's crazy. Futsal has taken you to Brazil, Spain, across the U.S. What's next?
More of the same. I hope there's a few teams that it's interesting. Garrett and I have talked about now that we've seen these 07, 08 boys do it, and since we were involved in those finals, even on the girls' side too, we watched and saw like how do those teams how do they play the ones that win on the girls' side too, and so we know just like with the boys, now they know what it takes to win, and they are a champion, so they can go in, they can carry themselves a little bit differently. It's always hard, when you haven't done it, and so. Now we know we can go back to these other kids that are a little bit younger that have been real close to winning these tournaments and that are pretty good. Like our 09 boys are very, very good. The 11 boys are good. We have several girls teams that are right on the verge. And so now we go back to them and we're like, hey, this is what you're missing. This is what those 7 or 8 boys had that you didn't have. And because I'd love nothing more than to be doing this every year. Every year we're going to Spain because somebody won a national championship would be great. It's not easy to do, but I do think we have some teams that are
special,
close, that are real, real close. So that's the next thing is getting them over that hump, I think.
Nice. Well, it's going to happen. I look forward to seeing it happen, and I look forward to hearing you and Garrett both on here after you guys come back on New Year's. So I appreciate you, Kit. This has been great. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. It was great. It was fun.
Of course. Well, this has been another episode of the Mas Futbol podcast. If you've been listening, thank you. Kit's going to give me all the contact information, the stuff to donate. Everyone should just drop a 5, drop a 10. Save yourself that number 1 at McDonald's and, give somebody an opportunity to go to Spain. That'd be amazing. Kit, thank you again.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, man.